dancer, but that's it's for another time maybe. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. I realise you've had a long day and a busy day. I hope it was a very fruitful day. And it's my pleasure to introduce you to a guest who's a bit of a legend in Irish sport. And he's achieved so much, and how he has achieved it is extraordinary. And he's superb at telling his story as well. So for a few minutes, we'll take your time. I realise some of you might want to get away, but we won't bore you in any way because we have a wonderful guest. And he's a man who achieved great success as a golfer, as a player in the Ryder Cup. He was unbeaten as a player. They won 3 Ryder Cups as a player. But really, the mark he made as team captain, where he had to bring together a whole group of individuals and turn them into a team, and players who play for big money on their own without others helping them, is a great story. So here, before we introduce him, a reminder of his captaincy of the European team against the USA in the Ryder Cup of 2014.
It is truly an honour for me to stand here in front of these 12 wonderful players as captain of the European Ryder Cup team.
I congratulate Captain Paul McGinley and members of his European Ryder Cup team for an outstanding performance this week.
What a sporting spectacle we have witnessed here over the past 3 days.
Ladies and gentlemen, will you welcome, please, Paul McGinley. Make a point, first of all, by not using the steps. That's a good start, yeah. Well, I'm sitting down. You can stand if you want to. That's powerful. And here was this young guy from South Dublin captaining Europe against the US. I'm sorry, by the way, to our host that we didn't show any USA puts there, but it was for Paul's benefit. But you end up captaining Europe against Tom Watson, like one of the greatest legends in the sport. What was that like? Must have been daunting.
Yeah, it was, and thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. Nice to be here. Yeah, from just underneath the foothills over there, Rathfarnham is where I was brought up, and golf was not my number one thing growing up. I certainly wasn't a boys superstar or on the Irish boys team, under 18 team, or anything like that. Gaelic football and hurling were my sports when I was younger, and being a golfer was something I did during the summer and at college. And I got better. I broke my knee playing football. I had to play. Then I started playing golf, and all of a sudden, then at 25, I turned professional, and off I went. But Tom Watson was always my hero. I always liked watching him. I liked what he stood for. I liked him as a person. I loved the briskness of which he played. I loved the guile that he played the game with. There were so many things that stood out for me about Tom Watson, and it was ironic then that I ended up being Ryder Cup captain, and Tom was in position. And there's actually a funny story about it. I'd just been announced as Ryder Cup captain for Europe, and it was the first Irishman ever to be captain. It was a huge honour for me. I was feeling $1 million. Top of the world, just being announced, and Easter was coming up, and I went to college in San Diego. I did 2 years college in San Diego, finished my education there, and I said to my wife, why don't we go back to San Diego and take the kids with us and have a week's holiday there at Easter, just to kind of celebrate the fact that I'm Ryder Cup captain, and it was going to be nice to bring the kids over and see where we met, which was a college in America. And off we went to San Diego, and I stayed in a Marriott hotel just north of San Diego. And cut a long story short, the first morning, I woke up jet lagged, and I'm going upstairs to get into the lounge to get some coffee to bring down to my wife, who's still in bed, and the kids were asleep. And as I get in the lift, I had a pair of shorts and a T-shirt on. This guy gets into me, in beside me, American. He was suited and booted the way we are today, and he says, "Good morning, how are you?" I said, "I'm great, thank you." And he was what I would call as a very happy, typical American at 6 a.m. in the morning. Irish people don't get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, but Americans seem to do. And he was full of it. And he was, how are you? How are you doing? And how are you doing in San Diego? He was obviously clearly a businessman. He had his briefcase with him, and he was off to a meeting. And and as he's chatting to me, I can notice he's wearing a tie. And written on the tie was Ryder Cup, Medina, which the last edition had just been played. And I said to him, I said, you're a golfer. Oh, man, the Ryder Cup is the greatest event of all time. He said, I have Irish-American roots. I'm from Chicago. All my family are Irish. I'm Irish. I always go to Ireland every year on a golfing holiday. I never miss the Ryder Cup. It's the greatest event of all time. And I said, oh, guys, so I'm looking at him, and I know that he hasn't recognized me as the... And I go, as we're getting out of the lift, I said, are you going to the Ryder Cup in Gleneagles 2 years' time? And he looks at me, kind of looks around. He says, "Of course I'm going." So why wouldn't I? We got an Irish guy as captain, and and then I'm still not sure. I said, "I don't." Maybe he was just, making fun out of me. And as we're going over, I'm sidling over getting my coffee. He leans over and he made it very clear. He goes, "Are you going to go to the Ryder Cup yourself?" and I go, "Yeah, I'll be there." I never told him. So if you're in this room today, I mean, now you know the story. San Diego 2 years ago in the Marriott Hotel, 6 o'clock in the morning. You were suited and booted with a briefcase.
That was a high-risk strategy. He could have said anything about the Irish captain there. That was it was. But
it's good, as we say, it's good to play the Amadon sometimes.
Yeah,
you know that, Des. You're good at that.
I'm not playing it though. But the most intriguing thing for me is that so you're now bringing together a team for the Ryder Cup, and obviously some of them qualify through their placings on the rankings, etc. But you're putting together a team of millionaires who, by the nature of what golf is, you have to be kind of a selfish person. And now you're bringing them together, bringing them as a team, and you have to select. You have a choice of a few players. You're going to have to leave people out who will be hoping and who know you well. How did you cope with all of that? Yeah,
I mean, that was difficult. What happens in Ryder Cup captaincy on both sides of the Atlantic is you graduate, and as you get between 45 and 50 years of age, as your golf career winds down and you don't become as competitive as you were, if you're fortunate, you get elected to represent your continent, your country, as Ryder Cup captain. And that's what happened to me. I think I was 46 when I got appointed as captain. And
well, it's more rare. You're making it sound like that it happens to everyone at 50. It's very rare.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's only once every 2 years, and there's a lot of people waiting to be captain. It's a huge honour. And the interesting thing that we have over on this side of the pond compared to America is, which makes it very humbling, is it's your peers who vote you to be the captain. It's not some commercial body or something who say he'll be good, he'll represent us well. It's actually your peers who vote you. So it's a very humbling place to be. But it also brings a lot of challenges with it. As you say, you're trying to lead 12 selfish individuals, if I can say that, being one myself who played professional golf for 25 years. You need to be selfish. Everything is about you. It's an individual sport. And then once every 2 years you come together as part of a team, and you have to form and bond as a team under a captain who's got no experience in bonding a team. It's not like you had a graduation into this position. So you have to think on your feet. And one of the things that I did... one of the things, I looked at the practicalities of it, and one of the things that I think was the secret to my success as a captain was the fact that I didn't try to make them a team. Just bear with me. I know that doesn't sound very good as somebody who talks about building a team. But I felt that these guys, and just take Rory McIlroy, for example, from the age of 13 or 14, he's been trained to be an individual. Tiger Woods, trained to be an individual assassin, a guy who's just absolutely cold and clinical and selfish. That's the focus and mindset you need to have, and what generally the top players have. So when you come into a team room, then I think the mistake that I think has been made in the past is you try to form a team, you try to blend everybody together, they try to be something they're not. And as a result, then they weaken their performance. So what I wanted to do, I had a huge big quote, nearly half the size of that screen, as you walked into the team room. The best teamwork comes from those people working as individuals towards one goal in unison. In other words, I wanted to keep them in their own individual mindset. You're Rory McIlroy, you're coming into the team room. I want you to do everything that you would do in preparing for a major championship. Forget about the Ryder Cup and partnerships and what everybody else is doing. The way you can deliver is I want to keep you in that strong mindset, your own personal mindset of what you do on a week-to-week basis. And if I can say, just observing the Americans and Tiger Woods, who's one of the greatest players, if not the greatest we've ever seen, his record in the Ryder Cup is actually quite poor. And my feeling as to why it's not been good is that he's, as I say, that person I'm describing, that selfish individual, which drove him to the top, not just in golf but in sport. When he came into a team room, I think everybody says, oh no, he's too selfish, he can never be part of a team. I think it's the opposite. I think he came into that team room and he tried to be a team member. He tried to be friends. The captain asked him, would you play with this guy? Would you wear those clothes? Will you go to this gala dinner? Will you go to that? And all of a sudden, you're pulling him away from that selfish individuality which drove him to the top anyway. So it's like going into a washing machine on a Monday and he comes out of the washing machine on the first tee on a Friday morning and you've sanitized him. You've taken away his strength. That's how I saw it.
Would you have two guys in human nature? If it's an office, if it's here, you might have two guys who don't particularly get on well. You have to deal with that.
Yeah, listen. I mean, you put 12 guys together.
Egos,
yeah. Competitiveness against each other. All kinds of stuff that goes on, and all kinds of agendas. And getting on top of the gossip is very important. The caddies were very important for that, knowing the gossip on the tour, who gets on with each other. I was testing them out together in terms of partnerships during the season, but not knowing how they got on. Some didn't get on so well, pulled them away, said, okay, well, they will never be a partnership, I'll put them over here. I mean, we had one situation, I won't mention the players, well, I will mention the player's name. His name is Victor de Buisson, who is our, if you think of left field and go way left to left field, that's where you'll find Victor. He came to me on the Saturday night before the singles when everybody's up to high dough, we're very nervous getting ready for the last day. And he come to me with this big, long, very good-looking guy with this real long, sad face. And he goes, Paul, I have a serious problem. And I looked and I think, oh, my God, is he injured? He's going to have to forfeit his match in the morning. And I go, okay, Victor. And I pull him into a side room. And I sit him down. I say, what's the problem, Victor? He said, I'd like to bring a girl into the room tonight. I said, okay, Victor, well, the rest of the players have got their wives or girlfriends with them, and if you want to do that, we can facilitate that. That's not a problem. Okay, well, she's in St. Andrews, and I need to get her picked up in St. Andrews. I said, okay, well, we can send a car. We can do that. Yeah, but the problem is she used to be the girlfriend of another player in the team. Oh. And he doesn't know that I'm seeing her. And anyway, cut a long story short, they're the kind of things you have to deal with. So I won't go into the detail, but we worked around it.
And the pressure of Ryder Cup.
He won his match the next day, by the way.
Okay, we're all going to be googling ex-girlfriends of other Ryder Cup players now. But as a player, I mean, you experienced the pressure on the players. I mean, it was your first Ryder Cup, and you had the winning putt. What is the pressure like for a player in that, as distinct from when you're playing as an individual?
Well, I was lucky. I played 3 Ryder Cups, and the first one, as you say, if there's 12 players on the team and the best player being number 1 and the weakest player being number 12, I was always kind of number 7 to number 12 in the team. I was never one of the stellar players and the guy who was going to play all 5 matches. So I knew what it was like to be one of those soldiers. It was at the other end of the team that I didn't have a lot of experience in because I never was a superstar golfer. Never won a major championship. So Alex Ferguson was a guy that I talked to who managed Manchester United, and one of the reasons why I wanted to align myself with him was to pick his brain about, how do you manage a Ronaldo or a David Beckham or a Ryan Giggs going into a European Cup final? What kind of pressures are they under? How do you position them in the media? What do you say to them? What do you say to the media yourself? Do you put pressure on? Do you take the pressure off? All of those kind of things. So I had to learn that kind of side of it, which I did. But going back to my first one, there's actually a good story about holding the winning putt. Cut a long story short, for those who mightn't know, I held a winning putt in 2002 on the last green in the Belfry in Birmingham, just outside Birmingham in England. And I had a putt. It's like catching fish. The older you get, the longer the putt goes. But it was probably from here to the lectern. It was about 10 feet. But it had a big break from left to right. It was going to break about 4 or 5 inches from left to right. And people ask me how I felt over it. You know, you've got the Ryder Cup riding on if you hold it or if you don't hold it. And were you nervous? And I mean, of course I was nervous, incredibly nervous, as anybody would expect. But there was also a part of me that was hugely excited. And a part of me had this thought in my mind, I don't know where I got it, but I certainly used it when I became captain myself, was that if I make this putt, this crowd and all my teammates are going to go ballistic. They're going to go wild. So I felt very empowered. As much as I was nervous, I also felt very empowered. Anyway, I cut a long story short, I hit the putt. I hit a perfect putt. And as I looked up, it was 2 foot from the hole, but tracking beautifully right into the center of the hole. And it disappeared right in the middle of the hole, like a rabbit down a hole. It was absolutely perfect. And I put my hands in the air. It's funny, you know, that they say about time standing still. And I put my hands in the air, and I looked up, and I remember saying, yes. And then I remember thinking, why are my teammates not jumping on top of me? And I swear, I started thinking, maybe it didn't go in. And then then all of a sudden they were on top of me and off we went. Now, if you look at it on TV in real time, the minute it went in, they were on top of me. But actually, I really had those two thoughts. But it was a great moment. I mean, I likened it at the time to having a bottle of champagne, shaking it and shaking it and shaking it and shaking it, and that's how I felt inside. The fizz was ready to burst, and as the putt went in, it was like the cork came out, and just an explosion of joy. It was quite surreal.
You made an extraordinary gesture a few years later, where you gave a putt on the final green to J.J. Henry. Could you explain the background to that? It was extraordinary act of sportsmanship on your part. It was, but it made a lot of people very unhappy.
Who had bets on the score. A lot of people had bet for me to win my match, and I conceded a putt in the 18th hole, which made it a half match, so they didn't win their bet. So even to this day, a lot of people give me a lot of stick about it. But basically what happened was the Ryder Cup had been won. I wasn't in the last group, even though I was playing later. We had accumulated enough points. The Ryder Cup had been won on a different hole behind me on the course. So we were just playing out our matches. I was all square playing the 18th in the K Club here, not too far from here down the road. And I hit the par 5, I hit the green in 2, and I rolled it up dead. And my opponent, J.J. Henry from America, had a putt from about 25 feet from here to the Irish flag for a half match. And as I'm walking off the green, having my putt being conceded for birdie, this streaker start walking past me, running past me.
Iran, in fairness.
It was a male. Before the gentlemen in the room get too excited, it was a male streaker, and he had written. I remember looking around on him, and written on his back, he had 19th hole written in crayon, and an arrow pointing south. And I remember saying to him, "You can lip read me." You can, as I walked off the green, don't run on his line. Don't run on his line. And as I walked to the side of the green, well, JJ had bent down and was reading his putt, and of course that's exactly what he did. And he ran around him, all the crowd started cheering, and he rang around JJ. So of course he was walking on the line that JJ was going to putt on. So I walked over and I said, "Look, JJ, concede the putt. We call it a half match," and that was it. Yeah.
It was a big thing to do, because to win a match is a big thing for an individual. What was it like winning it in Ireland?
Well, that was a surreal week in some ways. For those who don't remember, Darren Clark was our neighbour, and one of my best friends, and his wife had passed away a month previously after a long battle with cancer. We had lived every moment of that. We looked after the kids when they were doing the hospital visits. So to live with somebody, unfortunately, I mean, most of us in this world have encountered cancer, through friends or family. But to have lived through that it was probably 2 years, maybe 3 that Heather went through that. And to live through all of that right through to her passing, slowly things ebbing away from her, and then dying, and then going to her funeral, and then the following week, Ian Woosnam picking Darren to be in the team, for Darren to play in the Ryder Cup down here in his home country and to play as well as he did, with all the sadness that was going around after Heather was not even a month dead. It was quite extraordinary. So it was bittersweet in some ways. As much as it was great, and I won a Ryder Cup as part of the team in my home country, it was also, I think of that week and I think of sadness before I think of anything else, which is a shame. Because it was a huge success. The Ryder Cup in in Ireland was a massive success.
He was a Tiger. He won his match and burst out crying on the. About the 16th.
Yeah, he beat him in one of his pairing partnerships with Lee Westwood. Yeah, it really was a surreal week, and I look back and I think all I can see when I think back, and it should be joyous scenes because we'd sell out crowds obviously at a Ryder Cup and huge corporate involvement, massive success. The team won by a record margin. Everything was great. But when I think back in my own mind, all I can see is kind of grey and black and darkness. You know, it's funny, which is, but I mean, it's nobody's fault. That's just kind of...
I know, but you had your whole family there and all your friends and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, it was... Listen, don't get me wrong. It wasn't a disaster of a week in any regard. But that's the kind of overriding feeling I got when I think of the K Club. That's just my personal view. Not that it wasn't a success. It was a massive success.
I had so many good stories to tell about it now, it's inappropriate. But to a much happier week that hasn't occurred yet, Paul, as you probably know, is going to be host for the Irish Open in Lahinch in County Clare. Some of you know Lahinch, the golf course in the town, and it's going to be a fantastic week, isn't it?
Yeah,
you're excited about it.
Yeah, I think the European Tour have come up with some great initiatives over the last number of years, and one of them is that we're very fortunate to have some superstars of the game. And in Ireland, we're very fortunate to have, outside of Tiger, arguably the biggest sports star in the game at the moment in Rory McIlroy from Ireland. And he spearheaded the Irish Open, which was on its knees commercially, as well as everything else, up to 4 years ago. And he took it over, and he became, through his foundation, he started bringing it to another level. He re-energized it. He brought it to another level. He got some of the top players to play. He got a lot more corporate involvement. And he brought it to a whole new level. And after 4 years and nearly 5 of doing that, at the end of last year, he contacted me and said, look, he said, this is quite a big burden for me to carry. I think in the 5 years where he was involved, he'd missed the cut on 4 occasions. And he said, I just really want to focus on playing and trying to win Irish Opens on my golf. And, I'll do more for my foundation when I get older. But at this moment, it's about my career. And I'd like to hand over the reins of the Irish Open. And, I'd like you to be part of holding it. So with that in mind, we come up with the idea that with the European Tour that we're blessed with a number of big names in Ireland, Pádraig Harrington, Graham McDowell and Darren Clark, all major winners, along with me, would share the hosting for the next 4 years, with Rory then coming in on the 5th year to host. So I'm the first in line. We're having it in Lahinch. Next year is a huge year for Irish sport because the Open Championship, or the British Open as some people still refer to it, is being held up in Portrush. First time since, for over 50 years that it's been held here in the country of Ireland. All the best players will come, major championship obviously, and it's going to be held in July up in Portrush. It's already a sellout, and where Irish Open is going to be 2 weeks previous. So hopefully that some of the American players will come over and play it. And I'm very much centre in front in everything going on with the Irish Open, not just in terms of trying to get the players involved to play, but commercially as well. Bringing new partners into the European Tour. Anybody by any means who wants to get involved, we'll be very happy to have them. We're going to have a whole new level of engagement on a corporate level. We're going to move things to a different level in that regard. Hopefully we're going to have sellout crowds like the Open Championship is going to do. And we're going to bring it down to the southwest of Ireland into Lahinch, which is a community that doesn't have a huge amount of big sport. Yes, they've got Munster Rugby and Limerick Hurling won the All-Ireland this year. But outside of that, most of the big sport in Ireland is focused here in Dublin. And it's an opportunity to bring one of our major sporting events in Ireland down into the southwest. And all going well, it's going to be a big success. I'm really excited about it. I'm putting a lot of energy into it, and we've got lots of ideas, and I want to move it to a new level in terms of not just the players coming and having a great experience, but also commercially, and thirdly, and most importantly of all, having the local community and that local spirit really engaged, and create a kind of a festival atmosphere down there. And that's what we're going to create more than anything else. It's going to be a party. It's going to be fun. It's going to be great. Yes, golf will be the centerpiece to it, but we're going to have music, live music. We're going to have all kinds of stuff going on. And anybody who wants to come down, come and join the party.
It's a party week, isn't it?
It is. I see it as a party. I see golf as a middle, and I think it's one of the misses that we've got as golf as a sport. Is that we very much focused on growing the game and all that, and I got 3 kids and all of them play. But one of the things that I'm keen on them doing, and it doesn't have to be playing to a high standard, but I'm being fortunate in all my years, in 25 years, nearly 30 years playing on tour, playing in Pro-Ams every single week and mixing with incredibly successful businessmen and businesswomen. And I can honestly say there's not one person I've asked a question to, and the question I always ask them is, how important has golf been in your career and in the development of you as a businessman or businesswoman? And every single one of them has said, huge to massive. Nobody has said, well, not really. Everybody has said huge to massive. So I think as a business,
the reason for that being for non-golfers.
Networking, getting into a room like this, of very influential people in the game of golf. Now, as I say, I have 3 kids, and what I want them to do is just play to a decent level. Because if you're in a company or organization, you're trying to climb there. One thing I've learned is golf business is about networking. It's about who you know. It's about climbing the ladder. It's about personal relationships. And golf is the best sport in the world for doing that, where you can go and spend if you're a junior in an organization or a company, you can spend 4 hours with the chief executive on a golf course or socially afterwards on a golf course. And it's a great way of mixing and helping yourself climb that corporate ladder. And I think it's a big miss that we don't promote enough about the game of golf.
On behalf of the bad golfers here, when you play in the Pro-Ams, do you mind playing with bad golfers?
Honestly, Des, we don't even notice. I swear, and that's true. It's about the crack, and it's,
But not everybody would have your mindset, maybe. Not every pro.
I think a lot of them do. I think the biggest factor when we play with people in a Pro-Am, and you're right, not all pros behave the way they should do towards the amateurs. They see it as an insufferable thing that they have to do. But honestly, yeah, I say that, and they're quite strong words, but I think,
accurate.
To be honest, some players do see that. I mean, I know stories of major champions. I mean, they shake hands in the first tee and don't speak a word until the 18th green. I mean, it's just abysmal, and for me, that should be a massive fine on behalf of the tour. But anyway, that's another story. I think we're much better than we have been. And certainly, I mean, you play with somebody like, Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy. I mean, they've so versed on world and world politics and everything that's going on in the world at the moment. They're very engaging. So I think there's a different breed of golfer now than there might have been in the past. But to be honest, just to give advice for those who play in Pro-Ams, the thing that's most important to us as golfers is, yes, of course, having a chat is great, but it's the ability to be quick. If you're gonna miss a putt, miss it quick. Don't hang around. Just get it over with. Get it over with and pick it up when you miss it. I think that's the secret. And it's the same with your tee shot. When you hit a bad shot and it goes 20 yards off the tee, lads, I'll sit this one out, put it in your pocket, and you walk up the fairway and have a bit of crack.
Colin Montgomery I played with once in Druids, and afterwards I said, thanks for being so patient given I'm not very good. He said, not very good? You're shite. He said, but he said, but at least you're quick and shite. And which was...
See, that's my point.
Just to move away before we finish up, outside of golf, I mean, I know you watch all sports, so we've, at the moment in Ireland, with some great sports, women, sports, men, but across the boards, who's your favourite sports person away from golf? Have you a favourite?
That's a good question. My hero in sport, and a lot of people in the room might know who he is Kevin Moran. And Kevin Moran played Gaelic football for Dublin. He's a trained accountant, so he's done all his qualifications to be a trained accountant. He played Gaelic football for Dublin here and grew up in Dublin, grew up not too far away here in Crumlin, Kimmage, and grew up to play Gaelic football for Dublin, win an All-Ireland with Dublin in Gaelic football, and then changed sports as a graduate and went to Manchester United and rose up there to not only represent Man United and win leagues and FA Cups, and get sent off in an FA Cup final, but also to play for Ireland too. And I think if I could have been one person in my life that I wasn't, I'd love to have been Kevin Moran, because Gaelic football is my huge passion, still is. And then the ability to play with Man United as well. Imagine doing both of those, and at the same time you have an education where you've done 5 years to become a trained accountant. I think he's the kind of guy that I look to. Okay, Tiger Woods, you look at all of those things, great, but I look at Kevin Moran in a completely different way for that reason.
Have you played golf with him?
With
Kevin?
Kevin. I have, yeah.
Oh, yeah. No,
yeah.
I was going to ring him. Paul McGinley loves you. I was going to say, if you had... What's Tiger like to play with?
I've played Tiger a number of times, obviously. 15, 20 times maybe. I played him twice in the Ryder Cup. There's a good story in the Ryder Cup. We played him. I love telling this story, so thanks for asking that one. Because obviously it's got a happy outcome. So I'm playing myself and Padraig, 2004. Padraig hadn't won major championships. He wasn't a big star. He ended up being in the game, and I would just come through. It was my second Ryder Cup, and it was Padraig's first Ryder Cup. And we are playing on the second day, and we're playing against Davis Love, who was ranked 3 in the world, and Tiger Woods, who was the megastar at the height of his career. And we're playing in Detroit. And so you got two Irish fellas from just underneath the mountains. We both went to the same school together. We played for the same football team, the same Gaelic football team together. Our houses are within a mile of each other. And we've grown up now, not just in that sphere, but we move on to a world stage, and we end up winning the World Cup for Ireland together, which we did, and then going on to represent Europe in the Ryder Cup. And Bernard Langer put us as partners, and unfortunately for us, we draw Tiger Woods, number 1 in the world, and number 3, Davis Love. So I hadn't played in the morning that day. It was the second day, and Padraig had, and he hadn't played very well. So I knew by him at lunchtime, I'm all excited. I'm just beside myself with excitement. I've been rested in the morning. I'm buzzing. I'm ready to go out. And Padraig's flat, and I can tell he's flat as a pancake. He hasn't played very well. And I'm trying to cajole him about, it'll be great, don't worry. And the guys who played Tiger in the morning going, Jesus, Tiger Woods, oh my God, what a player. I mean, so this is making Padraig feel even worse. So we get on the first tee, huge stand around the first tee. On the tee, representing America, Tiger Woods. A crowd go crazy. Tiger Woods stands up, hits a 3-wood. This thing came off like a missile down the middle of the fairway, dissected the middle of the fairway at 320 yards down the hill in Detroit. Anybody who's played Oakland Hills. And it was like, oh my God, follow that, Padraig. So Padraig stands up, not confident. Anybody who's seen Padraig play, he's not the quickest. He's not the quickest to understate. And he takes forever, and he's scratching his ass, and he's moving around, and he's tees the ball, and he's ready to hit, and then he walks away like a farmer, and then he tees it up again, and you can see he's nervous as a kitten. And he hits this thing that comes off, as they say, some of the caddies say, it came off at left angles. It came off left, going left, up and low, nearly hit the people in the stand. So we get up there, and it's up against the out-of-bounds fence with about 20 trees between me and the fairway, and I can't get a backswing. I'm trying to get a backswing to just nudge it back towards the fairway.
You're playing every second shot?
Every second shot, yes, alternate shot. Yeah. And as I take it back, on the downswing, I hit the fence, and then I have a fresh air. So I've missed it. So now Padraig has to go in. Padraig hits it, and it hits the tree in front of him, and then ricochets back against the fence again. Right? So I get in left-handed, and I knock it about 20 yards forward. Right? Imagine all the crowd are around watching this. And it's going out live on TV. And then Padraig goes in to hit it again, hits the tree, and ricochets left again. Right? So we've played like 6, and we're still 40 yards short of where they are. So I said to Padraig, let's just give them this hole. Be all right. We'll start in a second. So we pick up the hole. We walk out. They haven't even hit their second shot. And I said, all right, lads, pick it up. Walk to the next tee. So we go to the next tee, and it's my tee shot. I'm driving against Davis Love, who's a big hitter, and I'm not a particularly long hitter. So Davis Love stands up, boom, bazooka down the middle of the fairway. I do something similar, but not at the same speed. I'm about 30 yards behind him, par 5, and it's over a bunker. You can only see the top of the flag, and there's a huge stand behind. And so Padraig goes, look, he says, there's 265 over this bunker. I can't carry the bunker. I'm going to lay it up. So you play a pitch shot in. I said, okay, what number do you want? And I gave him the yardage. So he hits the second shot up the fairway. It's all right, I got a pitch shot in. So Tiger Woods, we move forward. Tiger Woods takes out something like a 4-iron. And well, this thing came off straight up in the air at 1,000,000 miles an hour, like a bazooka, and disappears way down. It comes down like a butterfly over the top of the bunker, this 4-iron. And next of all, the crowd go ballistic behind the green. So I walk up to my tee, and the crowd are still cheering, or up to my ball, and they're still cheering. And as I walk up, I've got like 70 yards left, and I walk up around the bunker to see how close they are. He's about a foot away. So now I got my shot from 70 yards for a half. So obviously I don't hold that. We're 2 down. So we're 2 down after 2, and all I'm thinking about is 8 and 7, 7 and 6. This is going to be a disaster. So I said to Padraig on the third hole, tell you what, I said, let's give ourselves a double bogey in the first hole. Let's give ourselves a par on the second. Let's see if we can just shoot par. If we can shoot par from here in, at least, we're not going to get beaten 6-5 or 7-6. And he said, that's a great idea. So we made par on the third. Anyway, cut a long story short, we ended up, I told you it was a happy story. We ended up winning 4-3. We beat them in the end. It just shows you the power of how things change, and momentum slowly got on our side. Then we put them under pressure. Then they started making mistakes. But what was great about it, and the thing, you talk about my memories of here in the K Club, but my memories of Detroit are colourful ones and great ones, because in Ireland, for those American visitors who may be here, we've county jerseys here, and we've 32 counties in Ireland, and you represent your county. And a lot of people who were out watching, myself and Pádraig, known with our Gaelic backgrounds, we're all wearing the county jerseys. That's how they identified themselves. And when we finished, we had 10,000 people around the green, all shouting at Tiger as he was giving an interview to American TV. You'll never beat the Irish. You'll never beat the Irish. And we were there for 45 minutes. They start singing songs. Every time we tried to leave, they pushed us back in again, and we had a party.
Yeah, that's fantastic. But it's a lovely memory. So look, we'll finish up. I know the Inside the Ropes will continue on behalf of the tour, won't it, between now and the Irish Open?
Yeah, as I say, the commerciality of the Irish Open is important, and commerciality of golf on the board of the European Tour. And there's a lot of changes going on in the game at the moment. And, Inside the Ropes is an initiative of the European Tour that we've been doing for, this is our first year, actually, second year doing it, where we're just trying to bring the continuity into an Irish Open, where it's not just about 1 week in the middle of the summer. It's about continuity through the whole 12 months. And as I say, we really want to move this Irish Open to another level, not just in terms of sellout crowds, which we've had in the past, but we want to really engage that community spirit. I think the key to any success in anything is engaging that local community. Just like, going back to managing the players in the Ryder Cup, the key for me was engaging, not their minds, but engaging their hearts. Getting them to feel that representation of themselves, their family, the country they're from, that they weren't just representing a blue flag of Europe. It was their hometown in Germany or France or Spain or wherever it may be. And just that's a GAA spirit. We're all proud of the county we come from. And I think with Irish Open venues, it's the same thing. We really want to engage that local community, like we did in Ballyliffin this year, northwest of Ireland, which was a great success. People said, what are you doing going up there? It's the middle of nowhere. One of the most successful Irish Opens we ever had, because the local community got engaged in it. And we want to take that and take that success and move it on to a new level.
Well, I wish you well. I wish you very well. And finally, for all of our American hosts, who'll win the Ryder Cup in 2 weeks?
I knew that was coming. I honestly, I'm really... Honestly.
Never mind the hosts.
Yeah, honestly, I'm very buoyed about European chances. Statistically, this is the best team we've ever put out, 1 to 12. Generally, the European teams are strong with 4 or 5 players. We have 3 or 4 players that are not so bad, pretty good players. And then we have 2 or 3 that we consider weak. I look at that team and I think probably if you want to call the weakest player at the moment, you'd have to say is probably Sergio Garcia. And he's always been one of our strengths. And he's a world-class player that won the Masters last year we know he's got that potential to go to the top level. I look at the other 11 players and I don't see anybody out of form. I see everybody showing really good, solid performances. And we're playing on a golf course that we've been playing since 2001 consecutive French Opens. We know it inside out, back to front, upside down. So, yes, granted, America are very strong. They always are. But this is the best team we've ever put out. And I'm very buoyed about our chances, particularly playing at home. I'll just leave you with one statistic. And this is where home advantage is becoming very, very relevant when it comes to these team events in golf. In the last 10 years, the Solheim Cup, which is the ladies' version of the Ryder Cup, the President's Cup, which is America against the rest of the world except Europe, and the Ryder Cup, which is obviously Europe against America. In those 3 team events, the home team have won on 90% of the occasions in the last 10 years. Home advantage is massive. It's huge. And I think that's going to be the deciding factor. I'm really confident and buoyed about our chances, I must say.
Well, we all look forward to it. Thank you all very much for your attention. Thank you again to the Embassy for the lovely invite, and good luck to you, and I wish you great success in the future.
Thank
Paul
you,
McGinley, ladies and gentlemen. mean,